Hello, my name is Björgvin Sævarsson. I am the founder of Your Group, and I want to tell you about what we do and why we do it. Your Group is a company that designs regenerative or restorative districts for cities, and we help businesses realize circular economy. When working with governments and cities, we first and foremost help them understand what it means to be regenerative and how to implement circular economy and connecting it with businesses and industries. In this episode together, we're going to explore some of the real opportunities that come along with this advanced development model. And I want to highlight that circular economy is very much a system-wide approach to economic value creation. And as you may imagine, this calls out a whole new set of opportunities that is not realized in conventional economic approaches, and also a new set of stakeholders. It doesn't mean the old or the conventional stakeholder is going away. Naturally, those are local, regional governments, the energy, water, waste authorities. There are financing partners, developers, neighborhood associations, etc. But today we're going to focus on this new set of stakeholder or economic value drivers, as we may want to call them once we realize the value they bring. We are going to set the tone with a client organization, a Watershed in the Minneapolis-St. Paul metropolitan area in the US. And this organization has recognized the value that restorative systems bring to their water infrastructure and its ability to achieve their objectives, which include water quality control, rate control, and the ability to treat stormwater on site and therefore stopping water pollution from going downstream, and eventually to provide for a thriving habitat in the region.
Hello, my name is Dan Coleman. I'm with the Mississippi Watershed Management Organization. And we're a natural resources, water resources organization in Minneapolis-St. Paul, Twin Cities area of Minnesota. Recently, the MWO has started an initiative that resembles the circular economy approach, where more of the goods and services and infrastructure for our local economy are to be produced and managed at a community level. The MWO is undertaking a new restorative systems approach, deploying a one water concept that manages all water as a single system, treating it more as a productive and valued resource. Within one single facility, wastewater and stormwater are cleaned and used to produce local food as well as potable water that can serve the local community. The same water can be used to recreate streams and water features that build up ecological systems and habitat within the urban setting.
Thank you, Dan. Restorative stormwater infrastructure, habitat creation. So let's identify what regenerative or circular infrastructure really means in the case of the Watershed and how that brings in the new kind of stakeholders. Current economic models do not price externalities. When designing a restorative infrastructure system for the Watershed, we need to understand the cost of externalities of the current model. Most cities and businesses today operate in this space. We call it conventional. You also see that green development status is only an incremental step that happens to attract all the design flaws that actually can prohibit restorative success. Naturally, we need to grow up this spectrum, leapfrog green incrementalism, and begin to realize restorative goals, which are the very basis of the circular economy. Designing for restorative or regenerative success requires an entirely different design model that is fully integrated and has a very clear definition of success. So we created a set of proprietary tools that start with our restorative city standard that provides the goals and the vision of restorative development, an integrated performance assessment tool which has all the benchmarks and metrics that helps us accurately and objectively, I might say, measure current status and generate the designs and actions required for restorative success. But one of the key elements is to understand what one thing has to do with the other. If we do X, what happens to the rest of the alphabet? Or in the case of water, if we invest in stormwater infrastructure, for example, what happens to all the other performance areas we measure? Environment, social system, economy, identity of place, or stock price if it's a publicly traded company we're measuring. Once we have this assessment done, we design the actual infrastructure. To achieve the Watershed restorative vision and realize the full environmental and social benefits along with economic prosperity, we knew we had to integrate the utilities. We designed an integrated utility hub and grid, a semi-decentralized system that delivers to restorative values and, when executed right, delivers to circular economic goals. The hub integrates energy, waste, water into a single system in a single building, and then we designed a food production facility on top, which feeds from the waste stream from the other systems. In short, this is a closed-loop, waste-free and emissions-free utility system that can stabilize utility rates through its entire lifespan and even delivers beyond the Watershed's vision when we count all the additional values that come from it. Let's look at some of the restorative benefits from a pilot plant we designed for district redevelopment near downtown Minneapolis in the US. The system will reclaim and treat stormwater and wastewater on site and provide water back to the district in the form required each time. This is water for irrigation, water for commercial use, and potable water in case of emergency. It also provides safe water for ponds and canals, public pools and spas, and habitat creation. This will reduce the need for aquifers by as much as 80%. Earlier, we talked about understanding the cost of externalities. In this context, understanding the economic value of pollution and knowing what to do with it is absolutely vital in regenerative models. The integrated utility system captures the pollution from the water stream and sequesters it in the agricultural system where it actually serves as a nutrient. Remember that much of the man-made pollution is just misplaced nutrients, which we like to reclaim. Capturing the pollution is actually incredibly profitable when we look at the system-wide effect. We measured our pilot plant alone will save over $1 million in health costs every year. Regarding our reference to stress, the regenerative utility system influences and enables a regenerative public realm, which will prove to reduce stress and increase well-being. This is because we are designing health in many ways into the public realm. We mentioned a few of the components, such as zero waste, zero emissions, pollution-free water systems, and eventually the habitat or the ecosystem of the city. So this would include the right lighting, arts, along with the vegetation, and that goes along with the habitat. This has proven to be a major stress reliever for city dwellers, and we absolutely include that into our designs. There are multiple uses for the energy our designs, the utility hub, can generate at the district scale. We could power many homes and businesses, or turn the vehicle fleet to a zero emissions one. This could include district-wide electric charging stations for electric cars and hydrogen for fuel cell cars. And here's an important fact. The integrated utility system generates hydrogen at a cost that beats the current market rate to such a level that a hydrogen-powered car is now less expensive to operate than a petroleum one. Meanwhile, the pilot plant alone generates over 30 permanent new jobs. Were this to be implemented at the regional level, this number would be far bigger. It's important to understand that many products that are produced within the hub or directly outside the hub are products that we are currently purchasing from faraway sources, sources outside of our local economy. This would include energies, food, even clothing for the textiles. And we often send our waste even out of our economies, and we pay a lot of money for that. The new economy generated by this pilot plant is in the range of $6 million per year, and this is new local economy. When we talk about resilience at the city level, this is one of the key starting points. So far, we have discussed the integrated utility system and the foundation it provides for regenerative economy. So now let's explore the unusual stakeholders and value drivers. We are looking for the added value which comes from the industries and also from nonprofits, NGOs, and social entrepreneurs, for example. And we happen to have a restorative business standard to guide the efforts to restorative values. Textiles represent approximately 5% of our landfill waste. It's actually a horrendous waste, mostly plastics, nylon, polyester, and acrylics, so it won't decompose and eventually finds its way to our aquifers and habitats, where it becomes a tremendous economic burden. The cost of getting rid of textiles in the US each year is in the range of $650 million. This is each year. Alternatively, the integrated utility system can capture this waste stream and convert it into value on site within the district. For each position at the landfill, we create 30 new permanent jobs adjacent to the utility hub and a steady new local economy. This is through the sale of new products or raw materials. An important fact is that the integrated utility hub already includes the waste sorting equipment and the water treatment. So we have direct access to this valuable waste stream, and we can clean it and purify the material before processing. So it requires a minimum investment to start. Paul Mooney is the Executive Director of the Youth Intervention Program Association. This is an association that lobbies for youth intervention programs and provides products and services to non-profit organizations throughout the world. Paul and his organization is not a typical stakeholder in infrastructure development, but let's find out why he plays a key role in turning economies from linear to circular.
Hi, my name is Paul Mooney. I'm the Executive Director of the Youth Intervention Programs Association. We're an association made up of groups that all work with kids that are living with risk factors in their lives, such as domestic abuse, chemical dependency, parent incarceration, or even mental health issues. And our members all work to make sure that these young people become productive, contributing members of society. They do that in a variety of ways, but the main thing that they do is try to connect young people with caring adults in the community. Because we know if young people feel connected and they feel like somebody cares for them, they have a good opportunity to grow and find their niche within that community and help with public safety, help with the economic competitiveness of that area, and help with all the things that communities need to be high-functioning, good, safe places to raise families in. And we also know that the return on investment for helping these young people is really good. For every dollar that you invest in helping a young person living with these risk factors, the return on investment to society is $10. For every $1 you spend, you get $10 back. We think that's good economic value, and that is really goes a long way to helping promote the vitality of any community.
Okay, did you catch that? For every dollar spent, youth intervention generates $10 in return. In the conventional model, this might be called a social agenda, right? An intangible cost, and therefore it's often very difficult to get funding. When applying system-wide lens to the issue, we come to understand that it makes total economic sense. And this is very important. We are getting better at understanding the need to divert waste from landfills, but in the meantime, we are beginning to treat people, our single most valuable resource, as waste. Paul and people like him and their organizations are already diverting 9 out of 10 people from being social and economic burden to becoming a producer within our economies. And this is the very reason we include youth intervention and, for example, out of prison populations in our circular economic models. But I think it's important for all of us to understand who these people are. These are children and teenagers that often live under a tremendous amount of stress and insecurity. And they happen to be the very bunch of people that commits much of what New York City calls quality of life crimes. They are often small crimes, misdemeanors, but for the victim, it makes life a misery for a while. Today, we deal with these crimes by placing all the efforts and enormous economic resources to find them and send off to prison, out of sight, out of mind, so to speak. And now, in the US and other countries, the local prisons are full, so we send them further and further away. And we send more and more of them away each year. Sounds a bit like waste? Well, yes, this is exactly how we treat our waste stream. In the regenerative model, with the help of Paul and people like Paul, we catch these kids and teenagers before they become a burden, and they will continue being an important part of our lives and our economies. So let's explore the economic cost and benefits of the regenerative approach versus the conventional one. If we don't count the economic cost of extra police force and the stress our police officers endure in their profession, each person who is captured and sent to jail comes with a high price tag, or toward the $100,000 per year, and that is per person. Alternatively, the cost of running the intervention programs is on average $2,000 per person per year. This is return on investment that ranges between 500 and 1400%. And this is not counting the generational ripple effect, which I would love to discuss in another episode. But I do want to point out that a hedge fund manager on Wall Street who produces 22 or 25% return on investment is considered pretty much godlike. The integrated utility system and the spin-off businesses and the opportunities that come with them can provide a place for this group of people to train, study, and work. There will be skill training opportunities within the system, and there will be opportunities to grow from agricultural work, for example, to marketing and into sales, and even into engineering and management. In this sense, the integrated utility hub can serve as a place in the community where these people get a start under supervision and they have an ability to learn and grow. In summary, diverting people from the prison system, from being an economic burden and into economic producers, is extremely profitable, and it is a key to restorative success and circular economy. Mark Wynn is a social entrepreneur and educator, and he is the co-founder of the Dandelion Foundation. He lives on the island of Guernsey in the English Channel, and his goal is to make Guernsey the best place to live by 2020. To that end, the Dandelion Foundation has hosted numerous events bringing in top minds from around the world to educate and inspire the local population. Another goal that goes simultaneously with this Dandelion Foundation is that they want to bring the cost of living to zero. Now imagine that.
My name is Mark Wynn, and I'm the co-founder of the Dandelion Foundation in the small island nation of Guernsey. I run a social movement that's focused on making Guernsey the best place to live on Earth by 2020. And we're really looking at how small self-governing nations can come together to solve many of the complex challenges that humanity currently faces. What I love about the circular economy and why small nations have a role in this is it's a really complex cross-silo system issue that small places where people across those silos can get together to actually solve these problems. And we look at this in a slightly different way. Islands are places with a very high cost of living, and they're difficult places to live without money. And so they already have markets that are quite strong for a kind of more circular processes. And so we really look at this as how do we bring forward a future where things like basic income, etc., are possible. And we think about it in terms of reducing cost of living using things like the sharing economy, circular economy, and even more circular social systems to actually bring forth a world where we can move beyond work or the need to work or do a job you don't like to thrive. So we have an initiative in this community called Cost of Living Zero, and we're really looking to champion islands being the forefront of bringing forth the future of humanity.
Thanks for this, Mark. Now let's see if we can make this all add up economically. Let's look at some of the trends in the world and see what Mark is up against. Cities across the world are facing an unprecedented challenge when it comes to population rise. People are moving from the rural areas and into cities at an alarming rate, actually. There is not enough energy for everyone, not enough water, not a system to capture all the waste, not enough homes to house everyone, and not enough jobs. This is a huge burden that cities are facing in most parts of the world today. This is happening at the same time as artificial intelligence is replacing more and more jobs. In this visualization, please notice how the two lines follow each other toward the year 2000 or so. This represents jobs created for every job lost to automation. And these lines are pretty much parallel throughout our history, at least of modern times. Now, please notice how the line split toward the end, this is at the right side of the visual. This means that automation has become so affordable that the market has begun to choose machines over people to do the work. And we are not creating new jobs to replace the ones lost. Okay, this is key. What is happening now is that automation has become so good and so inexpensive that it will replace human workers at an increasing rate. And this is happening already. In other words, unemployment is chronic and it simply won't be fixed. So the question is really about what we're going to do about it. And this is often where regenerative systems and approach begin to make real sense to our clients. Now, let's entertain Mark's goals. The integrated utility system stabilizes the cost of utilities, and when managed for public purpose and not for financial gains alone, utility and food costs can actually drop over time. The spin-off businesses and opportunities that come with them provide for long-term economic resilience at the local level, which is incredibly important for island economies. Let's look at one specific example that shows how a part of the restorative approach of the utility system compares to other approaches. Recently, we designed the restorative utility system for a major city in California. The city is considering desalination plants to respond to dire water needs, and we wanted to provide an alternative to this approach. Instead of a single desalination plant that in this case would produce 50 million gallons per day of potable water, we designed a system based on 5 semi-decentralized integrated utility hubs. So this is a system, more of a regional system, that not only treats water on site, but takes all the municipal waste stream and processes it into values. It generates megawatts of energy and produces food for thousands of residents. This is a system that is optimized for public benefits and not financial profits, and that's for this case. When calculating the water treatment alone and not counting for other components of the hub, the water treatment unit produces water at half the cost of the desalination plant. And how would utility cost come down over time? The answer is that today most of the components of the hub are cutting edge and therefore they come at a premium price. Each year, however, the cost comes down and the efficiencies increase. We calculate this trend to beat inflation, and therefore we eliminate the need to ever raise the cost of utilities. Earlier, we touched on how the utility system can cut the cost of hydrogen. Well, it can do the same for food, and as an example, from a system we designed in Washington, D.C. not long ago, We calculated that a hub like this one can produce a plate of fresh seafood and vegetables and sell for $4.50 per plate, while still generating profits that beats the average hedge fund manager on Wall Street. Jamie Butterworth is a partner at Circularity Capital, a private equity firm that focuses only on circular economy. Their investors include financial institutions, global corporations, and leading family offices. Let's hear Jamie's perspectives.
Hello, my name is Jamie Butterworth. Björgvin asked me to say a few words about Circularity Capital, which is a specialist fund supporting the growth of and innovation of small to medium-sized businesses operating in the circular economy. My background is I was part of the team who helped to set up the Ellen MacArthur Foundation back in 2010 and 11, and one of the first things that we did was to immerse ourselves in reading literature around the topic of the circular economy, including biomimicry, cradle to cradle, industrial ecology, and the performance economy. We were very excited by the concept of the circular economy and the idea of two defined biological and technical metabolisms and an economy that was restorative by design. We could see some examples of businesses doing this within the economy, but there was a big question that we couldn't seem to answer. It seemed fairly fundamental to getting to scale, which was how and why and in what quantity the circular economy can actually create financial value. So we ended up doing a big piece of research together with McKinsey and published a report called Towards the Circular Economy, which we took to the World Economic Forum in 2011. And on the back of that, created the Circular Economy 100, which is now a very large network of businesses, government institutions and other bodies operating in the circular economy. And it was built on the very basic principle that companies that are networked find it easier to share information and scale these new innovations and ideas faster. And it was through access to that platform and coming across more and more of these businesses that I became convinced that small to medium-sized companies were key to unlocking a lot of the innovation and opportunities in this space, often the first to react and the most adaptable to change. And it was with that concept that I stepped down as the CEO from the foundation in 2014 to create Circularity Capital, which is now up and running and established as a specialist fund operating in that space. And we're building a portfolio of around 10 to 12 companies operating in the circular economy. And what that involves is getting a very good view and visibility of all the different types of businesses operating in the European circular SME ecosystem. I think that one of the exciting things about the circular economy from a financial perspective is that there's a very clear opportunity to drive financial returns for investors, but in parallel there's a very measurable non-financial impact in terms of resource decoupling and the innovation that's created through these types of businesses. So hopefully that gives a brief bit of background as to who Circularity Capital is and what we do.
Thank you kindly, Jamie. It would be really difficult to do all this without you. Jamie and the other brilliant minds at Circularity Capital represent a new wave of investors and financing partners that only work with regenerative and circular infrastructures and businesses. In the US, much like the rest of the world, the infrastructure is not up to par. In the US alone, the infrastructure financing gap stands at $3.6 trillion. The reason is plain and simply due to major design flaws that come with our linear and siloed development approaches. Naturally, Jamie plays a key role in transitioning our economies from linear to circular. The restorative model called for private capital to enter the public infrastructure in ways that it has not done before. This could accelerate infrastructure development and finally bridge the funding gap. We can build our infrastructure faster and better and begin to benefit from what it's truly meant to be. We have just scratched the surface of all the opportunities that come with regenerative or circular economic designs. Obviously, we do have a lot of work to do. Fortunately, we know what we're doing. I want to thank the Disruptive Innovation Festival for the kind invitation, and also our guest speakers, Dan, Paul, Mark, and Jamie, for their valuable insights. I hope this has been a joyful experience, and please know that we always welcome hearing from you.